Namaste, welcome, and aloha. Welcome to the verse titled Scientific Knowledge Through Devotion, the Revelation of Divine Truth. In the previous verse, we learned how the mind becomes satisfied and established in pure goodness when devotion is firm. Now, this verse reveals what happens next. Scientific knowledge of the absolute truth spontaneously manifests. This verse establishes the culmination of the process. Through devotional service, the mind becomes joyful and satisfied. For such a person, freed from material attachments, complete scientific knowledge of the absolute truth spontaneously manifests. This is a teaching about how transcendental knowledge is revealed through devotion. Let us explore this profound verse. First, the verse in its original Sanskrit. Evam prasannamananso bhagavad bhakti yogta. Bhagavad tattva vijnanam muktasa gasya jayate 20. These words reveal how knowledge of the absolute truth is attained. Let us understand what they teach us. Now, let us go through the raw form of English translation of the verse, the translation. Through the practice of devotional service to the Supreme Lord, the mind becomes joyful and completely satisfied. For such a person who is freed from all material attachments, the complete scientific knowledge of the absolute truth spontaneously manifests. This is a statement about the revelation of transcendental knowledge. Let us explore what this means. Now, let us look at some core teaching of this verse. This verse describes how transcendental knowledge manifests through devotional service. First, the progression, evam thus in this way. In what way? As described in the previous verse, through regular service, purification, establishment in goodness, and satisfaction. Evam following this progression. Second, the state of mind, prasanna manasash. Prasanna means clear, pleased, satisfied, enlivened. Manasash means of the mind. The mind becomes prasanna, clear, enlivened, satisfied. This is the result of being established in sattva, as described in the previous verses. Third, the means. Bhagavad Bhakti Yogata. Bhagavad Bhakti means devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Yogata means by contact with, through the practice of, through the practice of Bhakti Yoga devotional service to the Lord. Fourth, the qualification. Mukta Sangasya. Mukta means liberated, freed. Sasangasya means of association, of attachment. Mukta Sangasya, one who is freed from material association and attachment. Fifth, what manifests? Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam. Bhagavat means regarding the Supreme Lord. Tattva means truth, reality, principle. Vijnanam means scientific knowledge, realized knowledge. Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam, scientific knowledge of the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead. Sixth, how it manifests. Jayate. Jayate means arises, manifests, becomes effective, is born. This knowledge jayate spontaneously manifests, arises naturally. The verse teaches through devotional service for one whose mind is enlivened and who is freed from material attachments. Scientific knowledge of the absolute truth spontaneously manifests. Knowledge of God is not achieved through intellectual effort alone, but through devotional service combined with purifications. Now let us look at some modern scientific parallels. This ancient teaching has profound parallels in modern epistemology and psychology. First, consider the concept of tacit knowledge versus explicit knowledge. Philosopher Michael Polanyi showed that the deepest knowledge is often tacit. It cannot be fully articulated, but is known through direct experience and practice. The verse teaches, Vijnanam realized, scientific knowledge comes through bhakti yoga, through practice, not just through theoretical study. Second, consider research on expertise and intuition. Studies show that experts develop intuitive knowledge through years of practice knowledge that goes beyond what can be learned from books alone. The verse teaches Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam, scientific knowledge of God, comes through Bhagavat Bhakti Yogataha, through the practice of devotions. Third, consider the concept of state dependent learning. Research shows that what we can know and perceive depends on our state of consciousness. Different states reveal different aspects of reality. Verses. The verse teaches Prasanna Manasash with an enlivened, satisfied mind. Mukta Sangasya, freed from material attachments. Knowledge manifests when consciousness is in the right state. Fourth, consider the principle of observer effect in quantum physics. The observer's state affects what can be observed. Pure observation requires the observer to be in a particular state. The verse teaches to know Bhagavat Tattva, the absolute truth, one must be Mukta Sangasya, freed from material attachments. The knower state affects what can be known. Fifth, consider research on transformative learning. Studies show that profound learning often involves transformation of the learner, not just accumulation of information. The verse teaches knowledge of God, Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam, manifests through Bhakti Yoga, which transforms the practitioner. The transformation enables the knowledge. Let us now move on to some practical application as it relates to this verse. How do we apply this teaching in our daily lives? First, understand that knowledge of God comes through devotion, not just through study. Bhagavad Bhakti Yogata through devotional service. Don't think you can know God through intellectual study alone. Practice devotion. Serve the Lord. Knowledge will manifest through practice. Second, cultivate an enlivened, satisfied mind. Prasanna Manasash with a clear, pleased, enlivened mind. This comes from being established in sattva as described in previous verses. Cultivate goodness, your mind will become clear and receptive to transcendental knowledge. Third, free yourself from material attachments. Mukta Sangasya, freed from material association and attachment. As long as you're deeply attached to material things, transcendental knowledge cannot fully manifest. Work on reducing attachments. Fourth, trust that knowledge will manifest naturally. Jayati, it arises, it manifests spontaneously. You don't force this knowledge. Through devotional practice, purification, and freedom from attachment, knowledge naturally manifests. Fifth, aim for Vijnanam realized scientific knowledge. Not just theoretical knowledge, but Vijnanam realized experience, scientific knowledge of the absolute truth. This comes through the progression described in these verses: regular practice, purification, satisfaction, and devotion. Now, let us look at how this verse can help our young people. For young people in educational settings, this verse offers a profound teaching about the nature of real knowledge. Modern education emphasizes information and intellectual analysis. But the deepest knowledge, especially knowledge of ultimate reality, comes through a different process. The verse teaches Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam, scientific knowledge of the absolute truth, comes through Bhagavad Bhakti Yogata, through devotional practice. Real knowledge of God doesn't come just from reading books or attending lectures. It comes through practice, through devotion, through transformation. The verse teaches Prasanna Manasash with an enlivened mind, Mukta Sangasya, freed from attachments. Prepare yourself to receive knowledge. Cultivate a clear, satisfied mind. Reduce material attachments. Then knowledge will manifest. The verse teaches Jayati, it manifests spontaneously. Trust the process. Through sincere devotional practice, knowledge of the absolute truth will naturally be revealed to you. Now, let us look at how this verse can help our older generation folks. For those with more life experience, this verse speaks to the culmination of spiritual practice. you practice for years, you've studied scriptures, but perhaps you feel that deep realized knowledge of God still eludes you. The verse teaches, Bhagavat Tattva Vijnanam Jayate, scientific knowledge of the absolute truth manifests. This knowledge comes, it manifests. Be patient, continue your practice. The verse teaches, Mukta Sangasya for one freed from material attachments. Examine your attachments. Are there still material desires holding you back? Work on freeing yourself from these. The verse teaches prasanna manasasha with an enlivened, satisfied mind. Is your mind truly satisfied? Or are you still seeking satisfaction in material things? True knowledge manifests when the mind is genuinely satisfied in devotion. The verse teaches Bhagavat Bhakti Yogataha through devotional service. Continue your devotional practice. Knowledge of God is revealed through devotion, not just through time or study. In conclusion, we can say this verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam reveals how transcendental knowledge manifests. Through devotional service, the mind becomes joyful and satisfied. For such a person, freed from material attachments, complete scientific knowledge of the absolute truth spontaneously manifests. Knowledge of God is not achieved through intellectual effort alone, but through devotional service combined with purification and freedom from attachment. Continue your devotional practice, cultivate satisfaction and goodness, free yourself from material attachments. Scientific knowledge of the absolute truth will naturally be revealed. Thank you for exploring this verse with me. Thank you, Namaste, and Mahalo for joining me in this exploration of this verse. Scientific knowledge through devotion, the revelation of divine truth. Now we will move on to next verse.